Thanks for joining. This is the Exploratory online seminar. Today is the number 61. I'd like to introduce Exploratory version 6.9. Okay, so before getting started, let me introduce myself. My name is Kan Nishida, CEO, co-founder at Exploratory. We started Exploratory 2016 spring to democratize data science. Since then, we've been building this thing called Exploratory to make data science easier. And also we provide seminars and training to make to share our knowledge and skill with people in the world. Okay, and then our vision is everybody should be able to make data-informed decisions. In order to do that, in order to have that kind of world, our mission is to democratize data science. So that's the sort of like a guiding principle of what we do every day. Okay, so the data science workflow we think is like starting with business questions and then accessing the data and then clean the data. We call data wrangling, and also visualizing the data or analyzing the data with algorithms such as statistical or machine learning algorithms. Then you can find the patterns and insights from the data to help you answer the questions. And once you have the answers or insights, then you want to communicate with others. So for us, data access, data wrangling, visualization, analytics, and communication, these 4 or 5 things are the key components of the data science or key tasks of the data science. And then we want to make it easy to do 5 things in a consistent and a cohesive UI experience. Okay, so that's really the exploratory. Okay, so that's it for the introduction. Let me start again and the Exploratory online seminar number 61. Today, I'd like to introduce Exploratory version 6.9. Version 6.9 itself was released I think about 2 weeks ago or so, but since then we've been releasing sort of patches to make sure that all the qualities. So I think at this point, I think the latest one is version 6.9.4, and which is very stable release. So with that, I really sort of I like to introduce officially of Exploratory version 6.9. So these are the new features, but these are not all the new features. There are more. There's also there are more enhancements and also bug fixes, and those are the things that you can find in the release note. But I like to sort of highlight big new features. Okay, and then as you might have noticed that these are the sort of the same thing that I lay out sort of a data science workflow or data science tasks. Okay, so let's start with the data source. Or actually, before getting to the data source, one thing, this is kind of big for us, especially non-English users. And even for English users, I think this is still big enhancement. Because when you look at this, have you noticed anything? Kind of hint is kind of towards the left, the list of the data frame area right here. We made some improvements here. As you might have noticed, now you can use space. You can use symbols such as bracket or something like that. And of course, if it's non-English users, you can use other type of characters rather than just the English alphabet. So I myself is Japanese, so that means I can now enter Japanese characters as as a data frame names. So that gives you more flexible capability of sort of naming your data frames. So that's a big thing for that as a new, I don't think new features, but more like enhancements. Okay, so having said that, let's start with the data source. Google Analytics, if you happen to be the Google Analytics users, now we support sampling or not sampling data. Before it was always sampling, but now you can switch it so that you can actually get that whole more like a granular level of the data. And next one is the Google Sheets. The Google Sheets, now it's much more easier to kind of weird English, much easier to find your Google Sheet and then get that data from there. So first, you can select either like my drive or some of the Google Sheet that are shared with you. So you can switch between to be able to access the files quickly. If you happen to be Google Enterprise users, you might have like a team drive. And in that case, you can select that as well. Okay, and the next thing is, so now like you have this whole sort of like a file selection dialog. Before you had the drop down, and then like you got a bunch of like the Google Sheet names, but now like you have this nice UI for browsing and finding those files. And also, you might have like a folders in that Google Drive. And in that case, you can kind of go up and down. But also like now, like when you open this, you don't want to find or go to the same folder again and again by clicking through. So it remembers last, I think like 10 or 20 places you have visited. So you can click on here and then you can pinpoint to the folder, and then that's sort of like kind of a shortcut. Another thing is like how many sheets you want to display. If you're a heavy Google Sheet user, you might have like thousands of tens of thousands of sheets. And then that means like when you open this dialog, it might take longer time to load all the files. But in reality, like you don't really need that much. Typically, you need maybe like recent open file, recent open sheets or something like that. So anyway, you can select how many files you want to list in this dialog. Default is a 200. You can change it. But what if you have the files like let's say 10,000 Google Sheets, and it's not listed here because here you can list only up to 2,000. In that case, you can click on this run the search on the server, and then you can actually type that part of the sheet name, and then click on the search, and that will go back to the server side or Google Sheet, and then like whatever the matching Google Sheet will be returned and is shown up here. Okay, so that's a data source, and the next step is a summary view. We made a kind of small improvement. So first, like sometimes like you might have like 1,000 columns, or who knows, it's 3,000 columns or something like that. And obviously, this summary view calculate all different kind of things for each column. So it will be super slow if you wanna show all those columns. So now you can select how many columns how many columns to show. And default is 100, but you can just change it to like whatever the numbers. And then not only the first, the columns, but you can select the first 100 columns or last 100 columns and type of things as well. And another thing is similar to what I said in the Google Sheet. Let's say like you show like 100 columns or something, and then like you might have like 300 columns or whatever, and then like you just want to quickly search like particular column, right? And then in that case, you can click on this search, and then when you do the search, the first thing it does is basically the matching thing. So like as you type, and then like all the columns shows up. But then like the problem is like, hey, like I want to search the columns that like are not in the first 100 columns or something. In that case, you just type and click on this search button, and then it will find that as well. So it's easier to kind of sort of like deal with data with many columns. And the same thing for the table view. Table view 2, when you have many columns, then it will take time to render all the data in this sort of like a display or UI. So you can select it, and the first or last, how many rows, maybe like 100 rows or 200 rows and that kind of stuff. And also columns, first 100 columns or last 100 columns. So both of them, like rows and columns, you can sort of like adjust to make sure like you have the data display in this table. Okay, so those are the summary view, table view enhancements. And next up is a data wrangling. There are two big things. One is a new UI for window calculations. Another one is a new UI for conditional summarize function. So let's start with the window calculation. I'm gonna go quick to demo here. So I have this like a sales data. something like this. Okay, so now I have this like an order date, right? And then I have this customer ID. And then this one is basically each row is sort of like an order, but in actually precisely, it's actually each item in that order. So like it might be, like some sort of like if you order, you made an order and you purchase like a pencil, staples and paper, something like that. In that case, you have 3 rows for the one order. So that type of data. Okay, so now I want to see let's say like a very simple, like a cumulative sum for each customer. Like a first order, maybe like this person spent $100. Second order, again, this person spends $100. Third order, another $100. But that means by the third order, this person have already spent $300. So I want to do the cumulative calculation. And also like I want to see like how many orders this person did. So like a first order, second order, third order, that kind of index I want to put that on, so that like later I can see like who are the customers making like more than 5 times or something like that. Okay, so to do from here, there's a calculation. So for example, let's say you can start from any columns and you can switch, change the column selection later in the dialog. But for example, here is a create window calculation. And then like I'm going to select the cumulative, and what kind of cumulative? Typically the cumulative sum. Then like I get this UI. Okay, so when you see like at the very end, so this window calculation is basically do the calculation for each row. Okay, so this is different from summarize. Summarize is basically to do the calculation for each group. So kind of like a summarize or aggregate. But this one is not aggregating or anything. It just does the calculation for each row. But notice this last column is like a sales come sum. It keeps adding those numbers of the sales. So like as the rows goes down, then you get you get higher numbers. But this is a kind of a basic of it. But the window calculation comes in more powerful when you combine with this group by. So for example, you remember like I said, like I want to do this sales comes cumulative calculation for each customer. It could be each country, it could be each region, it could be each product. But in this case, I want to do for each customer. Okay, so I'm going to select that in here, customer ID. And then it does is basically gives the different color for each customer. And then like I can see how this cumulative calculation has been done. Okay, so the first person is this like whatever this Adam, this person has made only one order. So that's why like it has only one number. Second one, 2. But the third person seems like made 4 orders. And so therefore, this person's here is the cumulative sum is basically start adding those up numbers. Okay, so the next one is this is the cumulative sum. Like I want to do another thing. Let's say each order, I want to index it. This is the first order for this person. This is second order for this person, kind of stuff. For that, I can use this row number. It's very simple. If I put a row number, and then what it does is basically like each number. So for example, this yellow person, like the first order, second order, third order, fourth order, and so on. Okay, so that's basically it. And then like other things you can do if you want to change this kind of calculation, you always can click on this button right here, and then you have all other different type of calculation that you can actually perform. I'm planning to do more like deep dive of window calculation in the coming weeks. So if you're interested in, stay tuned. Okay, so and then once it's done, like I'm gonna just click on Run button. And then like I get these 2 new columns of the calculations. Okay, so that's the window calculation. Another new UI is the summarize, but it's actually conditional summarize calculation. So what that mean? Okay, so let's start with a very simple scenario here. Let's say maybe like here's I have like a country, right? So I want to calculate the sales for each country. Okay, so like I'm going to select the summarize. And then the group by is a country. And then right now, what I'm seeing is the number of rows for each country. I want to change that to sales. Okay. So this one is basically like aggregation, no, for the window calculation, right? This is not each row. It's actually calculating and return aggregating and return one number for each group. Okay, so now from here, I want to do is I want to know the sales of a particular type of a product for each country. What that means? Let's say like there is here somewhere there's a product category here. So I want to see what is the technology sales of technology for each country. Okay, and then so let's to do, if, of course, like you can filter the data, original data, and then come to this summarize too. Then, but that means you lose other, product category data, right? So again, I don't want to do the filter. I just want to return the sales. I want to just get the sales numbers of the particular product category. To do, first I'm going to select the sales. And then this is sales sum. This is exact the same number, right? But here, when I click on the sum button and I scroll down, there is a sum if. And if you're familiar with Excel, you might have used this sum if function. There are a series of those functions, like not just sum or mean or median and so on, but one of them is sum if. If I select this, then like I get this like dialog. If you're Exploratory users, you must be familiar with this dialog because we use a similar dialog for the filter. Yes, when you think about it, the filter dialog, what you're actually really doing is you're creating a condition, right? So here, I want to create a condition. What kind of condition is that? Well, here, I'm going to select the product category as a column. And then let's say like, hey, I want to I select the technology, then I have just created the category equal to technology, okay? And based on this condition, give me the sum of the sales. And that's what I'm basically doing here. So I'm gonna here like change the column name, sales, and the technology or something, okay? And then click on it, then I get this sales technology. So this number is smaller than sales sum because it's, it calculated only for the technology summation. Okay. All right. So next one is basically I want to do is other thing I can do is, for example, no technology. Let's say like other anything other than technology. And in that case, I'm going to do the same thing, sales, and then like I'm going to select the sales sum if. And then all I need to do is select the product category, and then operators, I'm going to select the non-equal to, and then technology. Well, same thing is I could do is basically changing the equal to operator and select multiple, furniture and office supplies or something like that. It will return the same thing. But anyway, so I just created another condition. So supposedly these two combined together equals all sum, right? So I'm going to change the column name. This one is sales non, and then I can use space too. So non-technology, and then so now I have those three calculations, and I click run, and then I get that result. Okay, so that's a sum if function, but so basically we created it was like a UI for this type of conditional aggregation or summarization. Okay, so that's the new UI for the data wrangling. So next up is the chart. And the big thing in this release is the configuration for color. We redesign the way you assign the color or creating this color groups. And also you can actually give name for each label. So what that means. So let's, this one too, let's go with the demo. For this, I'm gonna select the different data. Here is a CO2 emission data. So this one, I already created it. Here's a bar chart. The country is an x-axis, and then y-axis is amount of the CO2 emissions. The unit is exajoules. I'm not really understanding, but whatever that unit is. So now we are basically comparing, right? So like which country? This is 2020. Okay, so which country is producing more or producing less? So now I want to do let's start with a very simple one. I'm going to assign the region to the color. Okay, so now like each region have a different color. So this is a legend on the at the right hand side top. Okay, so now what I want to do, like, hey, you know what? Like, I want to change the color palette, and then you want to do is basically from the menu and then this color and group. Okay, and then before it was a kind of a small dialogue where you can switch between the color palette, but now that we have this big dialogue, and not only change the color palette, you can do something more. So first, I want to change that maybe something different. I don't know, maybe something like that, and then click apply, and then just change the color palette. That is nothing new, but from here, what I can do is I can pinpoint and change the color. So let's say like, hey, East Asia and Pacific, I want to give a different color. Click on that, and then here I can change to like a, you know, light red or whatever, and then I click on apply button, and then now like basically I can control the color for each particular value. If I'm not satisfied with this drop down, hey, you know what, like I have my corporate color, whatever the scenario. In that case, you can click on this like a little edit icon right here. And then when you click on it, then you get this like a color picker that you can just do whatever the color you like to choose. Okay, you can use a hex code, you can use the RGB code, or you can just use this like area and whatever that works for you. You have a full scale of switching color here. Okay, and then now, hey, you know what? Like I want to change this name, like East Asia and Pacific. I just want to call it just Asia or something, right? And then, well, actually, there's other Asia, like South Asia. I'm gonna call it this one to Asia too, and then give the obviously same color, so light red. Oops, Asia. Okay, and then change it to label. Looks like that's a bug. I mean, like if I change the color picker, like this one disappear. I think this one's going to be fixed in the next release, next patch. But anyway, but so you can change the color and you can even change the label as well. This is all in the same dialog. Okay, so that looks good. But next thing is, so you know what? Instead of like giving the color based on the region, I want to sort of like highlight a particular country. For example, China has, you know, basically producing a tons of CO2 emissions, and then the U.S., right? And then like I'm originally from, I'm Japanese, so like I care about Japan too. So I want to highlight those three countries to sort of like you know, create some like story. And how can I do that? Okay, so in that case, color, I want to assign the country to the color. Now, like each country has a different color. Okay, and then like I want to highlight those three countries: China, US, Japan. Okay, and then to do from the menu, you can do this from the color group dialog, or shortcut is this highlight. Okay, but if I go from the color group, what you need to do is like from the color palette, you want to select this highlight color palette. And then basically, if you have selected the highlight from the menu, this is what you get when you open this dialog. And then what it's doing here is, hey, all the color, default color is light gray, right? So if I click on the apply button, and everything becomes just gray. And then I can assign the color. So like, for example, well, here is China. So I'm gonna China to be red. And then let's find like a Japan. I wanna give Japan to red, but it's like a light red to make it small difference from China. And then like, I wanna see like US, where the US, here. I want US to be light blue or something, okay. And then at this point, if I click on the apply button, and those three countries, only those three countries have the color that I set, and other countries will be shown as a gray color. So this is one way to sort of like kind of highlight, you know, the particular country, and then sort of like create a, you know, sort of like effectively communicate your talking points, right? Okay. So this is basically like I'm using a categorical column to the column. Sometimes I want to highlight basically this based on this sort of like a height, right? So for example, China and the US, and next one is India. Those are like sort of like a big, CO2 emission countries. And I want to give color to sort of like a darker color, and then like other countries is sort of like a less color. I don't know what's the opposite of the dark, lighter color, right? So in that case, what I can do is this color, instead of giving the particular column, I want to use this y-axis values. Based on the y-axis value, in this case, the amount of CO2 emission. And then I want to change the color, right? So this one is also new. So if you select y-axis values, whatever the y-axis value is, and then right now is a highlight mode. I'm going to remove this highlight. Okay. And then like right now, what happened is equal width, right? So if I click on this green box, what happens is like use this whatever the color palette, and then create 5 groups based on the y-axis values or CO2 emission values, and then give a different color. Okay, so now, for example, if I want to change the color palette to be like yellow, orange, red or something, and I click apply, and basically what I'm seeing is sort of like the higher or the longer the bar is, the darker the red color is. Okay, and then like you have a other way to sort of like creating the sort of like a grouping. So right now the equal width, maybe like if I change that to equal frequency, that means after you create the 5 groups, each group have the same number of the countries. Okay, and the other way, like an outlier, or you can even create a condition. Let's say like greater than 2,000, you want to give particular color or so on. Okay, so that's the kind of new color setting that gives you much more flexible and easier way to, visualize your data with color. Okay. So next up is another thing. This is sort of like kind of especially business or a financial subject matter. I think this is very important. Sometimes like when you have the sales data or revenue data, you always want to compare to the 1 year ago, or sometimes 1 quarter ago, so that like you can see like how much revenue is growing or business is growing, right? So that particular functionality is also being added, and this is pretty simple. This one I'm going to just quickly demo too. So let's say like I want to show here you go. Oh, this is a different data. I got to go to the sales, going back to sales data. Okay, and then chart view, and then let's say I'm going to use a bar chart. Ooh, I think that I'm going to switch the pin before the summarize. Maybe like around here is fine. And then I assign the order date. So this is the date column. And I want to show like monthly summary here. Not summary, monthly sales data. Okay. So now, along with this monthly sales data, like I want to see like how much this particular sales, for example, here, this particular sales was increased, or like how much grow compared to a year before, which means this is like a 2016 December, no, 2015 December. So I want to compare that against 2014 December. Okay, so how I'm going to do it? I'm going to keep the sales here, and I'm going to create another sales just so that we can compare. And then this one, click on the menu. You know what? So just to make it easier to see, I'm going to assign each y-axis and just separate the chart. So then it's probably kind of compared. It's easier to compare. So now I have 2 charts, right? And then like, I'm going to change the second one to be the one comparing against the 1 year ago. So from the menu, there's a window calculation or quick window calculation. This is kind of like a shortcut. I'm going to go with the shortcut. And then the percent difference from here, percent difference from period ago. I want to show just the difference. So let's say like, hey, $500 more compared to a year before, or I want to show like more like 20% more compared to a year ago. So I'm going to select percent difference from period ago. And then what happened is I'm going to click on this green, okay, text. And then this is more like a detailed information. So percent difference period ago, right? And then you can actually change that to, let's say, like you want to compare to the first value or mean value, all that. But this one is a period ago. This is the key part. And then you have a couple of options. You want to compare to the quarter ago or a year ago, or maybe like months ago and so on. In this case, I want to compare against a year ago. What's the period size? You want to compare against 2 years ago or just 1 year ago. Default is 1. I'm fine with that. And then I can click on the apply button. And then now here, basically, all these numbers we are seeing, for example, here, this one is a 24%. This is the 24% up compared to the last year. Okay, so this way, I think, I'm showing two axes, but you obviously, like, you can just have one axis, or you can have maybe, side by side mode and so on. Okay, so that's the period ago calculation. That this is actually not just for here, but also you can do the same thing in the window calculation, because we consider this as a sort of like window calculation for each row. So same UI, you can do that as well. Okay, so next up is analytics. This time, like, we didn't really have many new features, but one important update. It's that is a topic model. Okay, and a topic model, or LDA, we use LDA for the topic model. And then one of the things is always is sort of like, hey, what is it, each topic means, and then what type of the text actually is used, considered as a topic 1 or topic 2 kind of stuff. So we give color based on the topic for each word in the original document, so that you can see, for example, in this case, hey, these are the texts that are that have more words that are considered for topic 1. And then the topic model is not like one-to-one. So like, each text or each document can be considered topic 1, can be considered topic 2. It's all about probability or ratio. Okay, so you can see some of the text is kind of like have the different colors. That's, so like there are some like topic 2 type of words, topic 1 words, and you kind of combine. But then this gives you more kind of a detailed information about, like what the topic 1 really means, topic 2 really means, kind of stuff. So this one is accessible under the document tab. In the coming weeks, I'm going to start like a survey analysis seminar. And then as part of that, like, I'm going to introduce this like whole text analysis side of thing. So if you are interested in more detail, please stay tuned. Okay. And the next one is the dashboard. Dashboard, we have improved the way you can design the layout. So now, like, you fully, like, you could do that before, but it was like the way you can do is a little bit clunky. So now it's fully capable of, using the drag and drop to set the height, and as well as set the sort of width as well. So, so this one, when you add a new chart, and then like it's not going to break the layout, and then you can just use a drag and drop to nicely set the height, and also like set the entire height of the dashboard as well. And then also, this is not just a dashboard, like also for the note as well. But each chart in the dashboard or note will have this icon. Then you can click on it to expand to show the whole the chart in the whole view. This screenshot is for the desktop, but obviously, like when you publish to our server, you can expect this this working as well. Okay. The next one is the parameter. We have added the slider range type parameter. So this one, like, I'm going to just quickly do the demo here. So let's say like I have this like opportunity data, and then I'm going to click on this dashboard. So I have created this dashboard. Here we go. Oops. We're going to make it a little smaller. There you go. So like if I click on round bottom, and then Here's the dashboard. And then right hand side top, you can see the parameter button. Click on it. And then like I have this set of parameters so that I can update this data, right? And then now like I want to create a new parameters, which is this one is expected revenue, but this is Salesforce data or my sales data, right? And then like I want to just sort of like adjust the expected revenue to create sort of condition of like greater than particular amount of value to less than a particular value or something like that. To do, first I want to go to the chart. This is a chart that was used. And then like, here's a step, and this chart is looking at using that this step of the data. And right now, if I click on this particular one, this one is already have a between condition. Okay, so this one is basically like doing is like if the expected revenue is greater than 21,000 to 100,000 or something. So this is a static values somebody already input. I want to expose this as a parameter so that the people I share with can change those values, right, from the server page or whatever. So here's a parameter button, right? So I want to create a parameter, but first, okay, so like I can click on this create a parameter, or otherwise there's a parameter icon left hand side top. Either way, this will open this parameter dialog. Okay, and then like from here now, like I want to create a sort of range parameter. How am I going to do that? So let's say this is like a revenue range. The name of the parameter cannot have the space, so you either use underscore or no space or something. But display as, this is where you can do, flexibly write any name. And this is a text that will be shown to the end users or the people who you share with, right? So here, I want to say like opportunity, maybe size, and then maybe like range or something like that. And then the data type is a number, numeric, that's fine. And the input type, this is where slide the range. Before we had only single point, but now like range means you have the 2 points on the one slider. So I'm going to keep that. And I can type like what's the minimum value, max value, what's the default values, or I can get the data dynamically from this data itself. So I'm going to use this data frame that I'm looking at right now. And then which point of the data. I want to get the data from the step 4 instead of step 5, because sort of like I don't want to do like self-filtering stuff. So I can select that to step 4. What can be the last step is fine, but that means if you change the other parameter, that will affect this particular values as well. But anyway, so I'm going to select the numbers 4 and then value column, which column I want to use. That's the expected revenue. I saw someone here. There you go. So this value, mean value, the max value, these are the values that dynamically retrieve from this data frame. Now step 4 of the data frame. Okay, and the default is mean set, mean value and the max value. It looks okay. And I'm going to set like maybe 1,000 as a step value, which means if I change the sliders, dot like a point, and it will add 1,000 instead of just 1 by 1 or something. Okay, so I have created this range parameter, click on save button, it looks good, and I close this dialog. And then now the parameter is already selected, range parameter is selected. In the detail here is it was behind the scene, it was using this syntax for the parameter reference. But anyway, if I click on run button and I get different chart, and then I can click on the right-hand side top, this is a parameter icon, click on it, and then there's a new parameter, it is showing up here. And you remember like with the mean value and the max value was this range. I can change that for example, hey, like I want to see more like a lower side of revenue opportunities or something like that. Okay, so now here, like I have set it. And then obviously if I go back to the dashboard and then I can click on the parameters, now I have the new range slider here as well. And I can change the layout. For example, click on layout and hey, you know what? Like I want to bring this one like a little up, and then click OK. And then now like I have the opportunity range slider and the the second from the bottom and so on. Okay, so that's the range slider. And then other enhancements for the parameter is sometimes you, let's say like if this happens, especially Node, but you can do this thing for the dashboard as well. Sometimes you want to show the values that are selected in the parameter section. And then you can actually embed that parameter itself. And then like you can see that dynamically, whatever the selected values inside the node as well. Okay, so I think this, I'm going to just quickly show this demo. No, I think the slide, sorry, slide is good. So you can, the syntax is this. You need a backtick thing that you surround with a backtick, but inside you type @ and then curly bracket, and then the name of the parameter. And then that's it. And then when you run the node, and then you get these values as well. Okay. And another enhancement is this project related things. Number one is you might have noticed left-hand side top, there's this icon now. So first one is the project information. When you click on it, and then you can change the project name and add the description, but also here the properties. When this project was last updated, when it was created, what's the size of the project, and also how much of the memory this project is consuming right now. You might have had this experience, like somehow run out of the memory because you have only 8 GB of memory and you have like maybe like 5 GB of the data or something like that. So every time you load the data, you open the data frame, it will load the data in the memory. So you want to make sure like you still have like enough, allocated available memory, right? So you can see those information here. And then if let's say like you have 8 GB of memory, and then this one is close to like 8 gig or like 7 gig or something like that, maybe that's the time like you want to close the project. And that means it removes all the data from the memory space and then refresh it, right? So like you can reopen the data frame, and you can start from not exactly from zero because there are other things, and then it depends on the PC, but you can reduce the amount of the sort of like allocated memory area. Okay, so that's that project information. Another one is here. You can now publish the project to the server. Why you want to do that? There are a couple of reasons you want to do. First, make sure like you want to have sort of like a backup. Another thing is when you have the multiple machines, let's say like I have like a PC at work, PC at home, and then like I want to continue work between those two machines, you want to publish the project to the Exploratory server, go home, and then download the project. And then once you do it, and from that point on, like you can click on it to sort of republish or re-import on the same project. And this is kind of a single use case, but also if you're working with a couple people or other people, you can share the project and work together. For this this type of scenario, I'm planning to do another seminar called Collaboration with Exploratory, and then in there, like you can see more details as well. Okay, so that's the project level of the enhancements. And one last thing. Okay, so that is, I think it's gonna make your life much easier, which is you can drag and drop to import the data. And then these are the file type or the data file type we support initially: Excel, CSV, Parquet file. Parquet file is a kind of like a compressed sort of binary file. It's easier to transfer the data. And then EDF is the exported data format, and also DF is a data frame format. EDF and DF, both of them is basically when you export, here's right. So like when you export a chart or you export the step data, when you, I think, or export the dashboard, and then you select this EDF, that is a reproducible format, right? So like when you import not just the data, but it also comes along with the steps and the chart and the dashboard and all that stuff. And then DF is when you click on here and you can export the data frame itself. That will contain all the chart tabs, analytics tab, of course, the data wrangling steps, and also if you happen to have the branch data frames, whole thing. So those are DF. Okay, But let's say, like you just downloaded data from somewhere, and then you have that, you just want to quickly see, what data is, right? So you want to, let's say like, I don't know which data is good, maybe, here, so oil import by country CSV. Oh, maybe like this is like British Petroleum data. So I was actually using that for the CO2 emission. So I just drag and drop, and then I have this Excel import, data import dialog being open. And then now from here, like I can select, oh wow, there's a bunch of what do you call it? The sheet, Excel sheet was there. And then like I can select it, for example, like a coal, maybe consumption. And then like I get this data, and then, wow, this is like a kind of crazy. So like I want to skip like the first 2 rows. Okay. And then like it looks like each country of like all the core consumption data for, all the years or something. And then like I can click on save button, and then this is like a core consumption. I'm gonna just put a demo so that it's not a conflict with the original data already there. But now I have that data here. This is actually really useful, especially let's say like, hey, you know what? I have a couple of data. Let's say like if I have like a DF, do you remember? For example, a couple of data. You know what? I'm gonna go to the training. Maybe here, like I have. Oops, sorry about that. Let's say like I have a couple of CSV file, and then I don't want to do like one by one, so I'm gonna just select, let's say, like these 4 files, and just drag and drop, and then it opens select CSV files. And if this happen to be the same data, exact the same structure, meaning like the same column types, then you can actually import and merge so that maybe like January, February, March data get together. But in this case, obviously each files are different. But I just want to import them together as a different data frames. Then in that case, I can just click on the import button. And then like one by one, I can check. This happened to be the Japanese data, but I can click OK, and then another data comes in, and I click OK, and another data comes in. Sometimes you might need to change this like left-hand side parameters, because like you saw, maybe first couple of rows you might want to skip, or maybe like encoding is different, or NA character is different, or something like that. So this is sort of like give you the opportunity for like a quickly review before you import. Right. And then if you're dealing with a 10, 20 files, and you don't want to do this every single time, you just click OK for all. But in that case, one of the files might require a different setting, then you ended up like a little funky data. But anyway, so I'm going to click on OK, and I'm going to click OK as well. Okay, so quickly, like what I just have done is these 4 CSV files being imported together. So once you do this, what happens is before, like you have to go from here and file data and then select this, hey, this is CSV on Excel kind of stuff. You don't have to do that anymore. All you need to do is just drag and drop. And sometimes like I do is like, I just want to preview the data, but Excel, it takes a long time, especially when you have the tons of data in Excel. And then so just for the preview, not necessarily you want to import, just to preview what kind of data is in the Excel. I use this all the time, so you might want to give a shot. With that, I like to end this presentation or the seminar. If you have any question, please reach out to me. My email address is kan@exploratory.io. And Twitter is @exploratory_data. That's where we make announcements and sometimes introduce new features there as well.